I arrived in the hospital room at the appointed time, which is to say 11:20 p.m. After discovering the body, I fulfilled my obligation, then called in the doctor. The doctor examined the body before the police arrived. He was quite clear about the time of death, 11:10 p.m. And the one in the room at that time was my partner, not me. Those times are rather close, you have to admit. You're talking about an alibi established over a matter of minutes. To use a 10-minute discrepancy as the basis of your alibi
is easy to explain in this situation here, Judge. For example, take our debut hit single, 13 Years Hard Time for Love. Cue to the song, press the play button, and it will play for 2 minutes, 15 seconds. Do it 100 times, the result is the same. The debut single was only 2 minutes and 15 seconds long? What a ripoff. Magic is a world of utmost precision. Hocus pocus requires admirable focus. And in the time of death, determined by the doctor, there is an incontrovertible truth.
Very well. The prosecution warns us that we're dealing with rather precise times, and we can expect the cross-examination to require the same level of precision.
I would hope the defense refrains from its customarily broad, sweeping accusations, lest we blur the focus this case so clearly demands.
Point taken. Baseless remarks will result in a penalty. Carry on, Mr. Wright.
Carry on, right. I arrived in the hospital room at the appointed time, which is, say, 11:20 p.m. 11:20 p.m. Can you prove that's when you arrived?
Alas, such a feat may be beyond even the great Valiant, for there was no one in that room but McNiffy, and he was departed after a fashion.
I have here defendant Zach Gramerty's sworn deposition. I snuck into his room that night at the appointed time. It was 10 minutes before I left the room, and the victim was still alive.
The time indicated by this letter to Zach was 11:05 p.m.
Exactly, which means the witness could not have entered that room before 11:50, because his partner was still in the middle of his crime.
I see someone did their arithmetic homework.
You see, the defendant himself has corroborated the witness's testimony. Does it all make sense? I don't see any problem with that testimony.
If you say so, let's continue, shall we? Sometimes the most magical things of all is the truth.
After discovering the body, I fulfilled my obligation, then called in the doctor. You walk in on a murder, and the first thing you do is shoot the clown?
The disciple does what the disciple must. A momentous request without reason had cost for me a surfeit of sorrow. For what would I, Valiant, be now without him? May the soul of McNiffy the Great find greater peace above. This I muttered to myself as I pulled that lonely trigger.
In any case, I believe this is nothing more than what we have already learned. I'm still waiting for one of those right moments, Herr Attorney.
May I remind you that baseless remarks will earn penalties? Proceed with that in mind.
Yes, Your Honor. What a pain this is turning out to be. Doctor examined the body before the police arrived. Did the doctor say anything concerning the cause of death?
Why, yes. He said that he was dead. I believe he screamed, "My God, he's been shot in the head." It doesn't take a doctor to notice that. I probably would have screamed the same thing.
And I would have penned the requiem that arose in my soul at that horrid sight. Whatever happened to good old-fashioned investigation? In any case, I believe this is nothing more than what we have already learned. I'm still waiting for one of those right moments again. This is one of the penalties. Okay. Yes, Your Honor. What a pain this is going to be. victim is quite clear about the time of death. 11:10 p.m. I don't think I'm stepping out on a limb to say I have some doubts about this. How could the doctor be so precise with the time?
We do usually only get an estimated time of death, true. I'm not sure I've heard of a verified time of death. Magic revels in making the complex appear simple, but reality is the opposite. What appears complex in this case is a simple matter of subtraction. I see another person has done their arithmetic homework.
The point here is the IV the victim was taking. It's quite visible in the photograph of the scene. Recall what we heard earlier about the victim Magnifigrammari's schedule. Every night at 11, Magnifi took an IV drip for 30 minutes.
I can see the IV bag right there, yes.
Now look a little closer. Follow the tube down from the bag to the end.
Oh, the needle's been removed.
Doubtlessly it fell out when he was shot.
That would seem to be the case.
When the needle comes out, the IV no longer drips. You could just measure the remaining IV liquid.
Precisely.
The IV liquid functions for our purposes as an hourglass of sorts. This is how the doctor determined the time of death. From the amount remaining in the bag, it was determined that the IV had stopped 10 minutes after administration began.
Dann kann man auch anhalten zwischendurch. And so it was, when I, Valant, entered that room. 10 minutes had passed since that horrible crime was committed. And this is proof. Well, Mr. Wright.
Does that seem important? I don't see any problem with that testimony. Ich gehe jetzt mal weiter, mir fällt noch nichts auf.
The one in the room at the time was my partner, not me.
You entered that hospital room at 11:20 p.m. The time given by the defendant, Zach Grammar, was 11:05 p.m. You didn't run into him at the hospital that night?
This is why I never perform with amateurs, you see.
Huh?
Picture, if you will, the nighttime hospital. Outside, only the pale light of the moon. If two dressed as we were to meet in such circumstances, I dare say that would ruin the mood completely.
The mood isn't in question here. I believe the witness is saying they didn't meet, yeah?
For what is magic if not the study of beauty? Us meeting was not only out of the question, it was an impossibility.
But what is magic if not the study of how to make absolutely no sense at all? That said, was there a contradiction in there? Ihr sagt Bescheid, wenn euch irgendwas auffällt. War eigentlich ja nicht, ne? Wenn das heißt, um 11:10 Uhr wäre der gestorben, dann wäre Zack ja um 11:10 Uhr gegangen und wenn er dann erst um 11:20 Uhr kommt, ist ja keine Contradiction, dass sie sich nicht treffen. Übrigens, ich meinte irgendwann mal früher in diesem Ace 24 LP, dass es nur noch ganz paar Sachen gibt, an die ich mich vage erinnere vom letzten Fall und generell vom Spiel. Und eins davon war tatsächlich dieses Streiten darum, wer jemanden erschossen hat. Weil ich glaube, ich das damals schon voll schwer fand und da voll festhing. Und wahrscheinlich hänge ich jetzt wieder voll fest. Ich mache erstmal weiter mit Not a Problem, bis wir alles durch haben. Wobei, wir haben jetzt, glaube ich, alles durch. An alibi over a matter of minutes, precise is right. And pressing with impunity will earn me a nice penalty too. But I focus on one thing, this time of death. Okay, haben wir das wieder. Warum kann ich das jetzt nicht vorspulen? Mann, ey. Da gibt es ja irgendeine Vorspulen-Erlauben-Option, die ich bisher verpasst habe. Oh, ja, wie wär's mit der da? Die hatte ich doch schon mal an. Habe ich die mal ausgemacht? Wir haben doch schon mal Texte so schnell vorgespult. Ich sag jetzt mal, das wäre important. Seeing how it is the biggest clue we have to the time of death, I'd say it's very important.
Agreed. It would be hard to imagine a more precise way to determine the time. Behold the power of arithmetic. Very well. The witness will add this detail to his testimony.
The water of life springs not eternal. The remaining of your liquid proves my innocence. Did you notice the IV yourself by any chance?
When first I entered that room, the stench of gunpowder assailed me, next to the mark of death upon my mentor's forehead. And then his left arm did I spy, a rose, drooping and wilted. Its thorn, the discarded IV needle.
Knocked from the vein by the force of the shot, luckily for you. If that IV had not been there, why, you might be a suspect.
Indubitably so. I might say it's thanks to my lucky color.
Your lucky color?
Indeed, even today I wear it proudly upon my suspect self, for it always without fail brings me luck. Why, when Zack and Valen won their first Magician's Grand Prix, yes, the very one held by the Association of International Magicians, I was adorned in this attire then too, and our trophy, a bust. Ah, what a day that was.
This is one trip down memory lane no one needs.
My lucky color, yes indeed, and that IV too. I say I think it was hued especially for me, Valant. That does seem to be the case indeed. Well, Mr. Wright, any thoughts on this testimony?
Soll seine Lucky Color gelb sein? Weil er so gelb angezogen ist? Oder wie hat er das jetzt gemeint? Das sieht eher grün als gelb aus, aber gut, da ist ein blauer Sack drum, von daher passt das schon. Valen sure looks happy with himself. How about this lucky color testimony? Ja, ich frage mich nur noch gerade, wie wir da eine Contradiction draus machen können. Weil es sieht aus, als wäre das gelb. Insofern sagt er ja jetzt nicht irgendwie was Falsches. Ich überlege gerade. Aber wenn ich jetzt sage, there's a contradiction, muss ich irgendwas präsentieren. Hier sehe ich nichts, was mit Farbe zu tun hat. Ich weiß aber noch nicht, was das hier soll. tumor and liver progress to final stage with no recovery. Human patients with chronic diabetes, regular insulin. Ups. Haben wir hier eigentlich mal irgendwas gefunden? I always hated getting shots. I guess Magnifi was giving himself the insulin shots. There's no way I could do that. Ach, das ist doch nicht schlimm. Wait, if Magnifi used this to inject his insulin, why are there no traces of it having been used? Something to keep in mind. Wie oft musste der das dann machen? Ich habe immer noch keine Ahnung. Ich sag jetzt einfach mal irgendwas und guck mal, wo es hinführt. Totally a contradiction. It certainly sounds like your lucky colors brought you plenty of luck, but not this time. Mr. Valent, your lucky colors betrayed you.
I'm afraid you've lost me.
Your Honor, the witness's testimony just now clearly contradicts the evidence. Gerne mal wieder das ausmachen, weil jetzt gebe ich irgendwie aus Versehen alles Mögliche.
What? Please recall my warning at the beginning of this cross-examination, Mr. Wright. Baseless accusations will be duly penalized. You hope this latest accusation is well based.
Don't worry, I've got all your bases right here. Where is your evidence that contradicts what Mr. Valent has told us? Nicht die geringste Ahnung. Crime scene tells all, Your Honor. Wie jetzt? Echt, das war richtig? Ich habe nur geraten.
Photo of the crime scene.
All this talk of color has me yearning for black and white, clear-cut simplicity. Tell us, Herr Wright, just where is the contradiction in this photo? My pleasure, and I assure you it's quite simple. But I can't promise anything in black and white. Geht's vielleicht auch darum, dass das Zeug grün ist? Ich hätte halt gesagt, weil der Sack ist blau und wenn das gelb ist und blau und gelb ergibt doch grün. Dann passt das doch eigentlich. Valent Grammary, let's get one thing straight about your lucky color. It's yellow, yes?
Kind of takes the mystery out of it, but yes. Something wrong with yellow, Mr. Wright?
Yes, there is. Decisively wrong, in fact. Take another look at the photo of the crime scene.
What is this? Confusion, doubt. Tell us what your elderly eyes spy. Even my elderly eyes can see a problem here, Mr. Valent. Look at that IV bag. What is this? What foul magic?
It would be hard to call the IV liquid yellow, and I'm afraid no magic was involved in the taking of this photograph.
Alakanu.
Soll das jetzt wirklich grün sein?
Order, order, order! What does this mean?
This is some kind of mistake.
Yes, Prosecutor Gavin, your witness is mistake.
The greener they are, the harder they fall. Hala hilft mir jetzt auch nicht mehr. I suppose there's no substitute for experience. Valent Grammary, as you reminded us several times. Your lucky color is yellow, but the IV is clearly not. Muss mal, mach den Refresh doch mal. Okay, das fand ich jetzt aber ein bisschen doof gemacht, weil ich habe mir das hier angeguckt und habe halt gesehen, der Sack ist blau und wir sehen eine grüne Flüssigkeit, dann ist die bestimmt gelb. Weil, ist doch so. Also. Ich habe das jetzt wirklich, ich habe das jetzt gar nicht als grüne Flüssigkeit erkannt. Ich habe das Foto eigentlich nur mal genommen, weil mir nichts anderes eingefallen ist. Vielleicht soll das so sein. Ist das so... Ich weiß nicht, wie sehen denn japanische IV-Säcke aus? Vielleicht ist das irgendwas, was man in Japan sofort erkennt. Vielleicht haben die klassischen Infusionsbeutel in Japan irgendwie einen blauen Hintergrund und das davor ist durchsichtiges Plastik. Keine Ahnung. Es wäre halt echt cool gewesen, wenn das jetzt einfach, oh, sorry, darauf so rumzureiten, aber wenn das jetzt einfach ein durchsichtiger Sack gewesen wäre und da grüne Flüssigkeit drin gewesen wäre, wäre das voll cool, das jetzt hier so zu bemerken, dass er was von gelb sagt und man sieht, es ist aber nicht gelb, das ist eher grün. Aber dadurch, dass das Foto halt einen blauen Sack zeigt, sieht das halt eigentlich aus, als wäre das gelbe Flüssigkeit.
Well,
This contradiction can mean only one thing. And to think, you almost had me. Huh? I see your true colors now, Ace Attorney. Phoenix, right?
Something you'd like to tell us, Prosecutor Gavin? As far as this court can tell, the witness' testimony does contradict the evidence.
Yes, a contradiction.
One that I shall be pleased to hand right back to Mr. Wright.
How do you mean?
How? Because the witness has made no mistakes. I agree at a glance that EV liquid does appear sort of greenish yellow.
Oh nein. Habe ich mich jetzt gerade so darüber aufgeregt und jetzt kommt tatsächlich...
But I assure you the liquid itself is quite yellow.
Nein, nicht echt.
Yellow liquid? How can you say that? As far as I can tell from this photo, it's green. Yes, but what color is the...
Ach, fickt euch doch. Okay, ich bin froh, dass sie das erwähnen. Es ist halt nur ein bisschen doof, dass ich als Spieler erstmal annehmen sollte, dass das grün sein soll. Weil wenn der Spieler halt selber schon so weit denkt und sagt, ja, das ist aber ein blauer Sack, also muss das gelb sein, kommt der Spieler ja gar nicht erst darauf, diese Contradiction out zu pointen, wie es bei mir gerade der Fall war.
What color is the IV bag itself?
The bag? You mean the plastic bag on the hook?
It looks like I want to say light blue.
Precisely. Figured it out yet? Put a yellow liquid in a blue bag and... you get green.
This, incidentally, is the liquid's true color. I see. Your explanation does have the ring of truth to it.
Objection!
Ja, das ist das einzige Problem, das man in Ace Attorney Spielen manchmal hat. Nicht nur in diesem Teil. Dass man manchmal einen Schritt so weit denken kann und dann präsentiert man was eigentlich nicht falsch ist, aber irgendwie doch falsch ist, weil man halt schon einen Schritt weiter ist als der Charakter.
As I thought.
There's no substitute for experience, Prosecutor Gavin. Jetzt bin ich, aber so weit bin ich nicht. Was ist denn mit Phoenix jetzt?
What?
You may tell a good tale, but you've just proven something rather grave. For you, that is. Erklär mal jemand, was Phoenix jetzt hat.
Grave?
The liquid in the IV is yellow, yes. But how did this witness know that? Oh. Stimmt, da habe ich jetzt nicht dran gedacht. Da hat er recht. Es stimmt, wir haben gedacht, das wäre grün, aber es war doch nicht grün. Phoenix hat zumindest offenbar oder vielleicht auch nur angeblich gedacht, es wäre grün. Vielleicht war das ja auch eigentlich, warum Phoenix wirklich in Ordnung, ich weiß nicht. Aber er hat schon recht, wenn es so war, dass das wirklich halt ein blauer Sack ist und dementsprechend grün erscheint. Ja, wobei er hat ja gesagt, es wäre irgendwie genau die Farbe, er hätte genau die Farbe gesehen, die seine Glücksfarbe ist. Er hat nicht gesagt, er hat grün gesehen und sich gedacht, dass es gelb ist. Er hat ja schon irgendwie darauf rumgeritten, dass er die Farbe gelb gesehen hat. Er war ja so vehement und specific. How did this witness know that? It's quite unnatural when you think about it. You did think about it, didn't you? You did think about it, didn't you? Your Honor, the defense requests an explanation from the witness. At the scene of the crime, the IV liquid appears to be green. So let me ask, how did the witness know the IV liquid was actually yellow?
Galakazoo, oh my god! Order, order, order! Mr. Wright, you will explain this at once. The witness clearly knew the color of the IV liquid, so I'm sure it means something, but what?
I can think of only one possibility, Your Honor. The witness, Valant Grandmarie, has testified that the IV liquid was yellow because... Because it looked yellow? Was kann das denn überhaupt bedeuten? Dass er vielleicht hat er diese... There was a reason the IV liquid looked yellow to the witness. I bet.
Mr. Wright, then I bet at the end there, it worries me. Am I right in the assumption that you hope there's a reason? Not no.
Perhaps? Yes? Definitely. Oh, missed.
Then allow me to crush that hope as gentle and gentlemanly as I can.
One more chance, please. He knew the IV liquid's color. Oh, vielleicht hat er das rausgezogen. Gute Idee. Er hat es rausgezogen und dann ist natürlich gelbes Zeug da rausgespritzt. From the facts before us, the answer is clear. The witness knew that the IV liquid was yellow. Why? Because he'd seen it before, but not inside the blue bag we see in the photo. He saw the liquid by itself in a clear, colorless bag. Oh, okay, oder das?
I suppose he wouldn't have had to, but I'm still not clear as to what all this means.
Ask yourself, why would he know if he didn't work at a hospital? Oder er hat halt irgendwas ausgetauscht. That's where you'll find your meaning, Your Honor.
Objection!
I'm afraid I find nothing. So what if he knew the IV liquid's color? Leave the getting excited over absolutely nothing to our teeny bopper fans, yeah?
Objection!
The IV liquid is the only evidence proving the time of death. A 30-minute hourglass with 20-minute worth of sand remaining. Your client, Prosecutor Gavin.
I remember it well.
However, there's a critical difference between an hourglass and an IV bag.
Wait, I know. An hourglass uses sand, but an IV bag uses liquid. I'm right, right?
As much as it pains me to say this, Your Honor, no. Unlike the sands through an hourglass, IV liquid enters the patient's body, at which point, like magic, it disappears. However, what if the amount of IV liquid had increased? You couldn't tell, could you? After all, there's no way of knowing how much went in.
Objection!
Let me get this straight here, right. You're saying the witness watered down the victim's IV bag. Not with water, but with IV liquid. That's how you knew the IV liquid was yellow.
Wait, I said wait. How might an amateur such as myself essay to perform such a task?
Objection!
I'm an amateur too, but I can pour water into a cup.
Objection!
I'm afraid there's quite a big difference between a cup and an IV bag. Quite. Can you prove our witness is capable of such a feat? Mit der Spritze vielleicht.
Here's a point, amateurs. I at least would have some difficulty pouring IV liquid into that bag.
You don't need to be an expert to see the look of the witness's face. He added liquid to that IV to throw off the time of death. Aber gut, okay, jetzt verstehe ich, worauf er hinaus will. Wenn er ihn wirklich erst viel später erschossen hat und da halt schon fast nichts mehr drin war und er dann irgendwo einen anderen IV-Bag oder irgendwo die Flüssigkeit gefunden hat, ohne den blauen Sack, und die da irgendwie wieder nachgefüllt hat, bis hätte er natürlich das Gelbe gesehen. Und vielleicht hat er dafür die Spritze benutzt. Ich kriege jetzt Husten, das ist nicht gut. I tire of these fairy tales lacking evidence.
Well, Mr. Wright, any solid evidence to bring us back down to earth?
Well, Aunt Gramarye, I'm afraid your magic won't serve you well in a life of crime.
Might I ask what you're strongly suggesting?
Magic relies on props, and props become evidence. Our witness was certainly able to increase the amount of IV liquid in the bag. All he had to do was work a little magic, and the prop was... Ich sag das jetzt mal.
Yeah! The victim's syringe!
It's the perfect prop for the magically increasing IV trick, and easy enough for an amateur to use. What kind of evidence is that? The syringe was clean, not a trace of liquid in it. Geht ja voll hin und her hier. And don't you find that odd, Prosecutor Gavin? What? The victim had the syringe to administer his insulin shots. There should have been traces of insulin left inside. Well, that's probably true. Well, Aunt Gramarye, as you pointed out yourself, the IV liquid makes the perfect clock. One that you could manipulate at will. Muss ich mir noch schnell ein Bier für holen?
I do believe, well, with this being his first, that the burden of this trial has been a bit too much to bear for Prosecutor Gavin.
Oh?
I'm afraid that while there is a doubt as to the amount of IV liquid in that bag, the time of death cannot be proven. And that brings our trial to a close for today.
Well, maybe I can squeeze an extra day out of this. I can do a little much-needed investigation work.
I see there are no objections. Chorus...
Oh. Truly, there's no substitute for experience. Nothing blinds one to the truth so effectively. A word to the wise, underestimate the young and they'll sweep your feet out from under you. In a way you never ever expected. You see, I know exactly what you're thinking.
Huh?
What is he talking about? You say the witness used the syringe to manipulate the level of the IV liquid, but there is no proof.
There's no proof he didn't do it either.
Yes, quite true.
Huh? He's admitting it?
Nor was this witness quite as decisive as I'd hoped. This I admit, after all, by lingering in the past when the future holds so much.
You have something in mind, Prosecutor Gavin?
Prove her, Judge. I have another way to prove my case. With evidence, no less.
What is this?
This is the victim, Niffy Gramarye's diary.
Diary?
After going into the hospital, Niffy began writing his memoirs, it seems. The story of his birth, his startling debut, and of meeting his disciples. It seems he intended for the last chapter to end, quite appropriately, with his death.
Wait, that book doesn't say what the reason was, does it? The reason why his disciples couldn't refuse his last request?
Sadly, it does not. What is important here is on the last page. Apparently the victim wrote in his journal that night, even after the IV had begun at 11 p.m. Let's read it, shall we?
Tonight's IV is in, maybe the last. I'll leave the rest to them. The first should come soon. The journal may end here, or it may go on, but not long. That depends on his hand. All that is left to mine is to lay down this pen. This does appear to have been written just before his death. The court accepts this into evidence.
Read the very last part with particular care. This journal may end here, or it may go on, but not long. That depends on his hand.
Wir haben ja halt noch diese Seite, die aussieht, als würde sie dazugehören. Aber wir sind ja jetzt auch gerade bei diesem Fall gelandet, weil die Vera in der Gegenwart meinte, sie hätte irgendwie eine Tagebuchseite als Fälschung angefertigt. Deswegen befürchte ich fast, dass das hier nur eine Fälschung ist. Trucy kam ja auch als kleines Mädchen an und hat uns das gebracht und meinte, irgendwer da vorne hätte ihr das gegeben und gesagt, das sollte Phoenix bekommen. Wir haben aber leider nicht erfahren, wer ihr das gegeben hat. Also hat das irgendjemand bei Vera bestellt? Als Fälschung? Und dann Phoenix zugespielt? Jedenfalls mein Punkt ist, deswegen können wir nicht unbedingt davon ausgehen, dass was auch immer hier steht, wirklich wahr ist.
Weil wenn das, was hier steht, wahr ist, dann würde das ja bedeuten, dass Zack nicht geschossen hat, weil das Tagebuch dann hiermit noch weitergeht und sagt, seems Fate's clock will make me wait a little longer. Das würde ja bedeuten, dass Zack nicht geschossen hat. Also eigentlich ist es ein super Beweisstück für uns. Aber wenn es jetzt eben gefälscht ist die Frage, ob es wirklich stimmt. Of course by his. He refers to our defendant, Zack Gramery. Er wird jetzt wahrscheinlich argumentieren, dass das Tagebuch da vorbei ist und deswegen heißt es, dass Zack ihn erschossen hat. Und dann können wir das hier präsentieren und sagen, nee, wir haben die andere Seite.
That would make sense, yes. He was the first scheduled visitor after all.
But look at what he said before that. This journal may end here or it may go on. It may go on. Magnific Gramery intended to write again. That is, if Zack Gramery didn't pull the trigger. I see the defense understands the meaning of this. The victim's diary does not go on, it ends. Ja, aber du bist doch nicht so blind, dass du nicht siehst, dass seine Seite rausgerissen wurde. Because Magnifi's life was brought to an end by the defendant, Zack Gramery.
Order. Prosecutor Gavin. Are you certain that Magnific Gramery wrote this?
There is no mistaking his handwriting.
Well, this does seem to be significant. According to this, Magnific did intend to continue his diary. Yet if his diary ended here, which plainly it did,
then the one who pulled the trigger was the first visitor, Zack Gramery. Well, how do you like me now, Herr Wright? Still too green for your tastes, He is right about the diary being pretty clear. Still, I find it hard to believe that he'd overlook such an obvious problem with his precious evidence. Vielleicht hat er das rausgezogen. Also ich kann mir vorstellen, dass hier wirklich noch eine zweite Seite kam, auf der wirklich was stand. Wenn es stimmt, dass Zack ihn nicht erschossen hat, kann ich mir vorstellen, dass hier tatsächlich eine zweite Seite kam und dann ist Valant gekommen, hat ihn erschossen und hat die Seite rausgerissen. Ist halt nur trotzdem die Frage, was auf der Seite dann wirklich stand. Ob die Fälschung, die wir haben, ich nehme jetzt mal an, dass es eine ist, einfach nur denselben Text enthält oder einen anderen. This is the last page. The diary ends here. Huh? What is this? It looks like the page was ripped out. Well, now, isn't that interesting?
Well, now, isn't that
Was hat Judge gesagt?
Well, Mr. Wright, the witness's testimony we heard was lacking. When put together with this evidence, it seems quite sufficient for a case.
If the diary is accepted like this, the trial is over. Maybe it's time for me to show them something. Uh-oh. I'm left with no choice but to show my own evidence.
What? You have some evidence that overturns this diary?
It's not too late to rethink this and avoid more embarrassment. Vielleicht hat deswegen an seine Marke verloren.
Very well, please show us your evidence, Mr. Wright.
Incidentally, don't even think of showing us this diary you've just shown the court. Now that we've come this far, I hope you have something a little more decisive. Show us evidence that proves the victim continued writing his diary. Alright, I'd be happy to. The decisive evidence proving that the diary didn't end on this page is... First, take a close look at this diary. Note that a page has clearly been ripped out.
What is this? I hadn't noticed that at all.
Oh, I'm so blind. That's why we're still here talking about this. As it just so happens, I have here what I believe to be the missing page.
Oh, look, I don't believe it.
Looking at this page, it's hard to imagine that the first visitor that night shot Magnific Gramery. That's the defense's position.
Wait, let me see that. What in Sam Hill? Why, this is the continuation of the victim's diary.
Note the torn edge of the page. It's a perfect match with the torn remains of the last page in Magnifi's diary.
Quite remarkable.
Would you care to explain what all this means, Herr Attorney? Well, the diary continued after his first visitor came, which means that the victim was still alive after Zach Gramarye left, leaving no one to take his life but the second visitor. Valant Gramarye.
No. No. The handwriting too matches that on the other pages. This is, without a doubt, the genuine article. Order, order, order! But wait, that's impossible. This old man couldn't have written that.
Wirkt ja jetzt schon ziemlich überzeugt. Finally, you just couldn't resist, could you, Herr Wright? Resist what? Presenting solid evidence? Herr Judge.
Yes, Prosecutor Gavin.
Might I request we put the current cross-examination on hold? The prosecution would like to call a new witness.
But Prosecutor Gavin, this evidence overturns the current witnesses.
I ask only to put it on hold, please. My new witness has a very, very important piece of testimony to give. 5 minutes, no more. I promise, Your Honor.
Well, if you put it that way. Mr. Wright, what is your take on this?
Well, Your Honor, judging from his enthusiasm, we'll have to hear this new testimony sooner or later anyway. So it might as well be sooner.
Then, though this is highly, highly irregular, we will put the current cross-examination on hold. The witness may step down. Now, Prosecutor Gavin, please bring this surprise witness to the courtroom.
Wer kommt denn jetzt? I had a bad feeling just then. That ripped-out page was too obvious. He must have known. And I should have known it was a bad sign all around.